Well, my name's Dave Betler. I've been hobby turning, let's call it, for, probably 15 years. I can't remember exactly when. I think it was, I don't know, around 2010, I guess. I'm a carpenter by trade. I needed some columns for a job, fireplace columns, and couldn't get them in time to get the job done. I bought a lathe, turned the columns, and shortly after that, I saw a green wood turning class at Woodcraft advertised. And I took the green wood turning class, and at the end of the class, the instructor said, "Now, since you took a class today, you get 10% off anything in the store." And I immediately spent more on accessories than I had on my lathe, because it was a little Delta, you know. So now we are, and I don't want to say how many thousands of dollars later, I got into the slide. So today's project, I'll pull one out here. You've seen them in the back there, is a little stump box. I saw this isn't my original idea. Like most of us, we see something as something somebody else did and do our own variation on it. Now I'm drawing a blank on the gentleman's name. Now I had it when I was standing over there behind the TV. He's from out in the Midwest, and on the WOW Club site, he posted some little tree stumps that he did. And they were just straight tree stumps. So I made one and I emailed him a picture back and I said, "In Pennsylvania, we have roots on our stumps." So it's like, and just went on from there, made some stump boxes for a while. And I got on to making the little toothpick holders. I'm going to pass this around in a minute, but I'll explain it all. These make great gifts. They're easy to make. You don't have I'm going to do the box part in the middle here, but from when I get done doing the box, you'll see the burning takes a while, but it's simple. And, you know, they make great hostess gifts if you're going somewhere for somebody invites you to dinner. It's a nice little gift. What I'm going to show you, I'll pass this around, but basically, to make a toothpick holder, and of course a stump box just has a lid on it. This is a roughed out piece with a part for a burl if I want to put a burl on it. Like that. I don't know if you can. I should be looking at the camera. I'm addressing you guys and not the home crowds. I got it. So I can carve a burl on that if I want. This is, after it's turned, this is rough carved. This one has burning with a wood burner on it. Just the first part of the burning. And then as I do a little extra detail, and you'll see all this in a demo, do a little extra detail. This is a finished product that has been wood burned with a wood burner. Now, after I did a couple of these demos, somebody said, "I don't have a wood burner. Can I use a torch?" And I thought, now a torch is not going to get the detail down in the deep part of the bark. So I went home and I did one with a torch. And it actually looks pretty nice. So Daryl, if you can take a look at that and pass it around, you'll see the stages we're going to go through. I'm going to start with a round blank to save a little bit of time. I really like to just have a chunk of wood, a cut off from anything, because the roots can go any which direction that way. Now I located the centers on that. There's the camera over there. You can see my X marks, and I put where are we at? that camera. Okay. Anyway, I did a center punch there. Did this side. I already put my tenon on there just to save a little bit of time. I can see well, but not close. I suspect from the amount of gray hair in the room, one or two of you have the same problem. So. Now, if we have anybody that's fairly new here, I'm going to take a regress for a second. Can I get a close-up of this one, CW, from somewhere? Overhead would be good. I use dovetail jaws. So I have a parting tool bent on the angle of my jaws. And that will automatically give me my right angle. I don't have to fool around with a skew trying to get a right angle in there, cleaning it out. What happened there? Okay, that's a little too loud, CW. Yeah, okay. Okay. This does not have to be a good piece of steel. This can be anything because you're going to make a quick little cut with it. You know, you don't have to worry about doing a whole bowl with it. So it can be, this was, oh, well, this is a sore beast, forget that. But a piece of steel from Harbor Freight, an old screwdriver, anything. So I use dovetail jaws, I said that. If you use serrated jaws, we don't want this. You want a straight cut in. So make sure you know your jaws, and if you have several chucks, make sure you know which you're going to use. The serrated jaws, like I said, are straight in. You need a little bit bigger. I have a small tenon on this one. You need a little bit bigger tenon so that it doesn't twist out. You've got to get into a couple of the teeth here. So, okay, so we're going to make a little tenon on this one. Now, making a tenon, like I say, I have the dovetail jaws. I don't need to get very fussy on it. On size, the jaws have a lot of adjustment in them. That's a little over 2 inches. That's a 2-inch chuck. That's going to fit. I need a tenon on both ends because I'm going to part this in half, or not even half, a little. There we go. Watch, I'll probably make a liar out of myself here. Now, I don't know, do we have any newer turners in the room? So I know how to judge this. Okay. So at any rate, I hit, when I'm tightening things up, with dry wood at least twice, hit both sides. With wet wood, I'll hit it all 4 sides. I'll hit it twice. The reason being, wood turning chucks are not made to the same standard as metalworking chucks. So they've got slop in the gears. So you tighten the thing up. Anytime I can, I keep the tailstock up here for safety. If it's not in the way, my tailstock's up there. So what I want to do now is I'm going to cut the top off. I'm going to part this up, and a lot of this depends on what you're going to put in it. Since I'm not going to Just doing a demo. I'm just going to pick a random spot here. I'm going in far enough to allow for my carving. So if you wanted to put, for example, I don't know, something bigger in there. I can't think of anything right off the top of my head, but so if you had something big you wanted to put in this box, you're going to need a bigger piece of wood to start with. I had one I made for a friend of mine that he smokes a pipe. He wanted his tobacco, and it started out that big around. So I started with the 1/8" parting tool. I made about a 1/4" cut, and now I'm going to just cut this off with the tailstock up there. It held it. That's a parting tool made out of an old steak knife. Been using that for 15 years probably. You have to. It's stainless steel. It's not high. It's not any of those fancy cryogenic steels or anything. I have to sharpen it maybe every 5 or 6 times I cut something off. So, okay, so this is going to be our bottom, our base. This part's going to go up inside, or actually the lid's going to go over it. Okay, so I want to check my diameter on that. I don't have to remind most of you because you've probably touched both ends to there. I'm going to touch the end near me to mark it. This end is away. I'm going to mark it. That's a little bit smaller, which is fine. Different lathe. Excuse me. This is the top of the box. We don't need this tool. That was my mark. I'm going to go in enough. Where'd my other part go? I'm going to go in enough so that this will fit up inside of there when I trim it. I'm also going to check I'm going to check for flat across here. Now that's a good flat finish there. Oh man, I'm sorry about that. I'm going to clean that up just a little bit, just so it looks nice. This is skew. That's my negative rake scraper. It just, okay, that'll be fine. Now we're going to just indent that a little bit. So at this point, we can sand that put whatever finish you like on it. I didn't even bring sandpaper or finish tonight because everybody has their favorites. That's not a bad finish on there. You can put a little design in there if you want. But for the most part, the top is done except for carving. Come on. You know, I had my phone over there. I do this every time I demo. I set my timer so I can check and see how I'm doing on time as I'm going. And then I forget to turn it on. So, CW, about a half an hour into this, if you can just go, you know, just give or take. I don't know when I started, but tell you what, start it now. Okay, 15 minutes into it. Because I can shorten this if I have to. Now I made this smaller than that. So now we're going to get exact. And I can see it doesn't take much off of there. Come on. This is kind of basic box making. I'm rushing through this quick because I'm sure a lot of you have made boxes, and if you haven't, there's not much to it. A little more. Okay, so now I angled this cut just a little bit. So you can see that I am hitting maybe halfway on there. So now I know what diameter I need for that. About the halfway point. So if I don't take anything off of out here and come in here and take it until it's square, then I'm going to round that just a little bit. That should fit fairly tight. Okay, so just a little bit more. Now, when I had this part out, get this out of the way, you saw that I put a straight edge across there. Now, this is harder to straight edge, but I have a little bit of a hump in there. It's very important that these two are flat. I'll pass this around and I'll tell you why. This is a bad joint. As you carve, as you carve the outside, on this one, I took too much off the inside. This outside will hit and the inside will look like a bad, I think you can see it there. You can see the inside. We'll pass that around and you guys can see that. So I'm going to give you some exercise tonight, Daryl. So that can take a little bit more. But like I say, I'm going to take a little off of the inside there because it's rocking a little bit. That's the only real critical part about boxes is to have that nice tight fit right there. So. Incidentally, everything I'm doing tonight can be done with carbide tools. I don't have any kind of a prejudice against carbide. I'll use whatever tool does the job. Okay, I didn't go deep enough there, but we'll make it work. I keep hitting the wrong button to turn that off. Okay, that's fitting on there. I'm looking to match. Is that me? I'm looking to match grain here. Okay, there it is there. That's going to be our grain match. On boxes will change with the weather, and if you turn them 90 degrees, sometimes they'll get tight. On this one, we want a little bit of play so that, you can just pick it up with one hand and put your earrings in there or whatever with the other. Now, I'm not going to bother to hollow this out. That's a whole other class. But basically, you've got to figure out what you want to put in it. The toothpick holders, you have to figure enough for the toothpick and another up in the cap so that it fits. And then get a better look at that if they didn't look at it in the back. So as far as hollowing, you can drill down as far as you want to save some time. I've got a, somewhere here, what did I do with it? Huh. Black hand, another handle like this. Oh. And that's it hit point first, so it points down there somewhere. We won't worry about it. This is a piece of mild steel from Home Depot or somewhere, hardware store. I drill it and tap it. You can take a drill bit, the appropriate size, whatever you you want, sharpen into a point. If it was in there, I would pass it around and show you. Oh, here it is. So that's a hollowing tool made for about $5. Or you can buy a John Jordan tool, which is where I copied that, for $50. So now we have this to the point where pretend we've hollowed that out. We've got a box with a loose joint. I put a piece of paper towel, sometimes two. That's tight now. Gonna line it up grain-wise. Now that is how we're gonna work when we're gonna carve and everything. What I wanna do first is if I start carving on this, I may get down into this lower level here. So I'm gonna put some marks on there, part way down. That's what I'm gonna do here, is put some marks in there so that I know how far to stop. What I use for my carving is an Arbor-Tech because it's fast. When I teach the classes, I have everybody use a Dremel. It takes a little longer, it does the same job. And frankly, for beginners, it's a little safer. This tool is traveling at a lot of miles an hour. And it's a saber tooth or a cuts-all bit, has little spikes on it. If you get careless with this and one-hand it, you could literally kill yourself. You know, you could open yourself up pretty well. I keep two hands on it at all times. If I'm in the shop doing a lot of carving, I've got ear protection in. I didn't bring it with me tonight because I figured it'd be kind of rude for me to have it and you guys not. This is essential. You'll see why when the chips start flying. Right now I'm just going to put a couple of gauge marks in there. My first gauge mark I put in, you'll notice I showed you what not to do. I kept it running and just set it aside. The safe thing to do is shut it off like that every time. Okay, we can't go any lower than that when we're carving. Find my mark here. Yeah, I carved my mark off. Don't do that. Okay, now, I could carve that right there. If I do carve that right there, the chances are I'm going to put some nicks in here and some nicks in here. I don't want to have to buy new tools. So I have a wood turner friend that made me a couple of parts that I can hold that with. Okay, it's good and sturdy. I can carve on that, yet I can turn and carve a little more, turn and carve a little more. So I'll do just a little bit of carving and I'll pull one out that's already been done. Keep in mind the roots are down here and the tree trunk is going up. This is the top of it. So this wants to be smaller than this. I'm keeping in mind that there's a gauge right there. I don't know if you can see it on the. So I'm going to go around the whole thing until I get it looking like what I want. You know, this one, I brought these in stages because it's kind of boring to watch me carve. So this one I did a burl on it. I've got it rough carved out here. Through the magic of time release, I'm done carving with the ArborTech. I like to get a little more detail than the ArborTech gives me. Sure. That's basically the same as the other one, but that's good. You just wanted to stand up again. Come on. You guys have questions, just yell them out. So. Whatever camera you're on, CW, if you can. That's a Kutzall bit. Sabertooth sells them. So it's good for getting in and doing detail carving. Let me back up just a second. I have two other. If you don't want to go to the expense or if you're only going to do one or two, you don't want to spend money, $300 for an ArborTech. I wrote it down because I knew I'd forget it. RotaryChisel.com. It's a solid carbide. I'll pass these around. You can take a look at it. And this is one with replaceable inserts. I bought it from Klingspor. There's several places sell it now. MAMPA, I believe it is MANPA, something like that. But I'll pass these both around. I put them in holders so that it's easy to hold. You can do all that Arbor-Tech carving with them in a Dremel. I've taught the class in a couple different places, and that's what we used because it saves a lot of money for the folks just taking a class. So however you get it to this point, I use the Dremel for more detailed carving. I can get in on the base. I can get more detailed on the bark. So it's all a matter of finer and finer tools getting detail.
The paper towel doesn't jam up your bit?
Pardon me?
The paper towel doesn't jam up your bit?
Well, I'm having trouble with the echo. I'm sorry, dear.
The towel doesn't jam up your bit.
No, it cuts it right off. There. You know. So, incidentally, hearing protection, obviously. I'm not doing enough at that. I'm half deaf anyway, so. Yeah, that's what I say. But in the shop, I've got the hearing things in all the time because it takes, obviously, a while to do this. So, okay, more questions so far? Okay, that little hinge on the top, whenever you cut a tree and you cut through, you put your V in it, and then you cut through the other way, and just before it goes, you don't get all the way through, and those little hairs are sticking up. A what? Hinge wood, there you go. So that's one of the details that makes this look like a real tree. So obviously you can use a smaller saw than this. I spent a lot of years as a carpenter. I've already cut a couple here on this side. On this other side, I'm going to cut through, and I can hold this like this, where I already cut. I know where I want to be roughly. So that's roughly where I want my cut to end. I'm going to take another cut before that. The reason I took the narrow cuts is so I can go like that and just pop them off. Okay. I'm going to stop like that and pass that one around just so you can see the cuts. Obvious, I'd make probably 2 more cuts to get to that. So once I have the cuts where I want them, it's a matter of taking some tools and making them look like splinters of wood and it's a lot of picking. You probably can't see that on the camera. Can you see it? Okay, good. So I'm picking that out to make them look like individual hairs. Now, if I have an area like this that has just a little bit too much, I can use my Dremel to clean up a little bit. Actually, I can just, yeah, we'll leave it on there. Okay, so this has more on there than I want to pick by hand. I can take some of them off carefully. You get the idea. Also, while I have that Dremel out there, if you don't like your chainsaw marks, which I got off of my 8-point saw, if you don't like some of them, you can take the Dremel and clean up. You can even make some where the end of the chainsaw was making the loop. So basically, it takes a little time and patience to pick it out until it looks like it should. The story of all carving, you just cut away everything that doesn't look like you want. So now at that point, we're done with the top. We've got it carved. We've got the hinge wood cut. We still have a tenon on the bottom. This one's already removed. No, what I need is one of those ones that has a tenon on the bottom. Thank you. I guess I can go the other way with that. I'm putting all you guys to work. So I own a vacuum chuck, and I think I used it twice. This is how I take the bottom off, or the tenon off of all my work. On a bowl, of course, you can just put a rubber mat on there, shove the bowl against it, put your tailstock up against it, the revolving center, and turn it out. Here we're going to have to make a jam chuck. Making a jam chuck is no different than we did on making the top for the box. Come on. Oh, I locked it. That's too small. That's too big. Too big is good. Again, I'm going in on an angle. Whoops, I'm going the wrong way. I'm doing the outside. So I want this on the inside. Okay, it's bigger than I need. I can't see my mark. A little more. Okay. Take that tip off there.
People are watching him, and who's watching the screen? It's the end of the day. How many people are watching the screen? How many people are watching the
Okay. Well, I don't know what mark I was looking at, but I made that way too big. The dark wood and the light, I'll blame it on something other than me. I'm down to just about nothing on that. It's almost there. There we go.
How many people like to do split screen? Just trying to get the audio. Can I get that? Yeah, really good.
Okay, so we're going to remove the tenon. Now, it would be faster. Okay, that spun out of round. It'd be faster to go in this way against the grain and cut them off. but I'm trying to push so I don't push the thing off the chuck there. There we go. So all my pressure is against my jam chuck. Now I'm going to clean up here so it sits flat on the table. I'm just using the bottom blade of the gouge. It's sort of like a scrape, but not really a total shear cut. It's not a shear scrape. Okay, now I like to have a signature ring on mine. So I take a point tool, simply a screwdriver ground on 3 points. And I'll put a double ring in there, and that's where I sign my name. It's nice to have something down there so it looks like it was turned. So then we're going to get in a little bit closer here, make sure we don't hit. I have get it where we can see, a detail gouge. It's a 1/4 inch. This actually is a Doug Thompson tool, but you could take any small tool. Doesn't have to be a detail, it could be any spindle gouge. Put a real point on it, and you can just do amazing things with this, getting in little tight spots. It's a great tool for like if you're doing ornaments or anything like that. Now normally, I'm going to undercut that a little bit more so it sits on the table. Okay, so normally you would stop there. And you would saw that off and sand and sand and sand. If I can find all my tools here. Carving chisel, there it is. I use that's either a number 3 or number 5 carving chisel, just has a little bit of curve to it. Power's off, turn it by hand. I'm pushing pretty hard on it until the nub stops turning. Like that. That's off. I still have a little bit of sanding, but it's not near as much as if you had cut it off. So another little tip. Okay, we're done with the wood turning and carving part. How are we doing? We're in good shape.
Anybody who wants to leave, can leave whatever anybody who wants to leave can leave whatever they want.
The other. There it is. Thank you, Daryl.
The new people who didn't get your picture taken last week, last month, we're trying to put a face with the name for members who don't always do it. So make sure you see Pat Hey, Jack, is it going well for you on audio and video?
Yes, it is doing well.
All right, it's clear, crystal clear?
Yes,
Okay. So the audio problems that we were having before are all gone, right?
yes, they're gone.
Okay,
It's been pretty clear and very good tonight.
good.
There's some good positions on the camera too.
I'm paying the guy extra.
Oh, well, isn't that nice?
Yeah.
He deserves a tip.
And we doubled his salary.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you zoomed right in there.
Okay, intermission's over. Wood burning. This is where on the TV screen you put up, stand by, technical difficulties.
Hey, while we're having technical difficulties, chips for next month will be a stump box if you're a turner, a stump box or new box if you're a learner.
The chips for next month will be a stump box.
You're welcome to make one. Also, anybody else want to sign up for cookies next month?
I,
You also have to do this Saturday sawdust session, is anybody coming? Want to announce that?
Is anybody planning on coming to the sawdust session on Saturday?
Yes, so that's you. So far, no, and everybody else is not.
Okay, well, I'll send out a text, and we've got a new program where if you need to cancel for the sawdust session, you can cancel, and that way people don't show up for no reason to run it. Okay, so I'm ready when you are.
okay. For the wood burning part, you need a fairly high temperature wood burner. I have a razor tip burner. Razor tips are excellent for artwork. You have to turn them all the way up and use a fine wire tip. This is it's not a fine wire, it's like a medium-sized wire, probably, I don't know, I'm guessing like an 18 or so. I didn't make this tip, this one came from Burnmaster, but I make a lot of my own tips. So you want to get it so that it's not, I don't know if it'll show.
Yeah, if you
Will
yeah,
it
I got
show, color show up?
yeah, if you raise it an inch,
Okay, see
raise
that
it up
red?
1 inch.
We don't want that red. We want to get it back to, just a little bit. It'll last longer that way. That real bright red is going to burn out very quick. So for doing you get a lot more detail with the wood burner than you do with any of your tools. Even if you're doing wood carving, if you're carving birds or fish or anything, you get the detail with your wood burner. So basically, I'm going to follow the lines, the hollows. If I go like this, it's going to suck the heat out of the tool, and it actually takes longer to make a cut than dabbing at it. Also, when you dab at it, it makes it look more like bark. Because if you look close at a tree, there are no straight lines. So as you're coming through there, just keep dabbing at it. That's just a rounded tip on that. You know, you can use a skew tip on it. I had one guy use a tip that was straight across and he was going this way. It worked well. You just make it look like bark. And keep in mind it's going to get pretty much all black. You make sure you're lined up here when you're coming across. Because like if you start here, by the time you get over there, you might be off. So keep checking when you're right there at the joint. So, you know, again, I'm not going to do a lot of this because it's boring. This, even with the high temperature burner, this would take me an hour or so. If you put a burl on it now, if you look at a burl on a tree, they don't have bark going that way. Their bark is more in little chunks. So if you use the tip on the burl, it's going to look more realistic.
This is really cool.
Okay. And if you all want to try this, after I'm done, you can come up here and give it a try. When we get that much of when we get the whole thing burned, there we go. So we've got the whole thing burned, we're looking like this. To get that extra detail in that I like to get in there, I like to put some markers on the high points. So to get this, I hit it with a wire brush. I'm going to put one in here, and we probably don't have a wrench for that, but I'll. I brought a wire brush along. So, now, a little back up, a little aside here. I bought this mandrel, I don't know what it cost. I think it was Best Wood Tools. Obviously, they don't give them out for free. Here's a little aside how to make your wire brush. Again, if we can pull in a little bit, CW, that's good. Okay, this is a Morse taper to fit in either end. The easy way to make a Morse taper is to make a Morse taper jig. So I had that piece of wood in the lathe, and the Morse taper jig is made. This is square on the bottom. I take any one of my tools from the factory. There it is. Lay it in there and fasten the other part to it. That's the angle you want. So then when I'm turning, I just use it like you're using a parting tool or calipers for your sizing. And that's a perfect fit for the Morse taper. On this end, if you want it for the wire brush, you put the correct diameter on here. This one I have for a sanding wheel. So I can put this in my headstock, put the tailstock up against it. If you don't have a grinder, you can sharpen your tools on there. If you want to sand stuff, you can. So there's a little tip for another free tool. You don't need the sanding disc, but that is courtesy of a gentleman named Jim Duxbury from North Carolina. He does a class almost every year up at Presque Isle. So I'm going to turn the speed down some because I don't want these hairs blowing at me. Maybe I turned it down too much. Oh, I unplugged it when I was carving. So you can see where I cleaned some of that off already. I want to leave some of it inside because that's the detail that you want for the bark. But I want the high parts off. So the reason I want those high parts off, if you look at trees, unless they're wet, the bark is not brown or black. It's pretty much gray. And I didn't. So I take a marker. This will dry a little grayer than it is.
Are you just doing the high points?
I'm doing the high points. So that's going to give me my gray bark. And then if you want to go a little bit more drastic for detail, you can pick up an olive or so and get some moss on there. If you need a little extra brown somewhere, you get a brown. If you have a spot like here where I took too much off, go through and wood burn it again when you're done to get your detail on your. So, you know, that I think is the difference between, I don't know, a good job and a finished job. If you just leave it the black, it looks like a dark tree, but this gives you that little bit extra detail.
Oh, I see.
So I've gone through all my tools. Do we have any questions on this?
Do you put any finish on them, or do you just leave it alone?
Can you repeat the question?
That was the last thing, and I didn't see it. Krylon matte finish. Anything you don't want to shine, any carvings or anything, it dries quick. It's available. All the craft people use it, so you can buy it at Joann. You can buy it just about anywhere. It's real popular. It also comes in gloss. I can set this down there, spray it, and 5 minutes later I walk back and I can, I'm done with it. So that's about all I can show you on them. So more questions?
Does it have to be a brass brush or a steel brush?
No, steel brush works fine. If it's real coarse, you have to be real careful. The idea of the brush, and I first used sandpaper, sanding stars on it. and I was eating up the sandpaper. And then I looked at this one day and I thought, but the idea is to get that shiny stuff from the carving. Because when you're carving, this is actually almost like a varnish on top. And the paint or the markers won't hold. Now, an alternative to using the markers, that little rosewood toothpick holder back there, I dry brushed it. Because having dark wood, the markers won't work. You know, there's no light to work against. Dry brushing is a technique. You take acrylic paints, put a little dab on a piece of plastic or so. Dip your paintbrush in it, and then wipe all the paint off as much as you can. So the brush is almost dry. And then go back and forth. And you won't see anything on there at first. And keep going around, and little by little, you'll see a little bit of the color coming up. And you'll have to dip it again and dry it out and do it. Dry brushing works very well on any kind of carvings. If you look at one of those eggs back there, was a Michael Kay's class. And he does a lot of the dry brushing on his texturing. Puts black on it first and then dry brushes on top. So, more questions?
Is that a razor tip or a drug master?
That is a burn master. I have, since I do a lot of these, I made a charger out, or I used a battery charger. North Carolina, I'm drawing a blank on it. It's Graham Priddle. If you want to make one out of a battery charger, Graham Priddle wood vaporizer. You have to be careful because it'll melt one of these handles. So, and he'll also show you on there, somewhere on his website, how to make a handle. So it's a little bit sturdier, or a little bit more heat resistant, I guess is the word. So.
Any other
Okay.
questions today? Great.
Guess not. Thank you all.